This is Iris Martinez, an interviewer for the Iowa State University Special Collections and University Archives Voices of a Pandemic Oral History Project. Today is Monday, April 26, 2021. I am interviewing Lara Rodriguez from Ames, Iowa, while she is in Des Moines, Iowa. Please know, Lara, that this interview will be placed in the Iowa State University libraries and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
Okay, because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record your consenting. So I'll ask you a series of 5 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are 2 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. Okay. Voces wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation at the Benson Library at UT Austin. We will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to Voces. So, number 1, do you give Voces consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Benson Library?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Do you grant Voces copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Do you agree to allow us to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. We have many questions in the pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server. Before we send it to the Benson Library, we would have stripped out any contact information of yourself or family members, so that will not be a part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at the Benson Library?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. On occasion, Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give your consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
Sí, bueno,
Yes,
¿alguien
I
habrá este
agree.
número?
Okay.
Buscando trabajo.
So we will get started.
¿Con quién tengo gusto?
So let's just our main priority for this project is to describe the Latino experience during COVID-19. So we're just gonna get some basic questions and we'll get your input on it.
Okay.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your COVID-19 experience?
As of like having it or just like the overall experience of existing?
Either way, you can having it or how the year went for you.
Well, that's kind of like very general question, I guess, but it's been definitely it's just I mean, I don't really know how to explain it. It's been really hard, and at the same time, it's been quite the best year when it comes about my business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like overall, it's just been a really eye-opening experience. Yeah, so I guess it's just like both hard and good at the same time, I guess.
Okay. How did you first learn about COVID-19?
I think your uncle told me about it. I think like my husband told me about it. I think he told me to if I had read it, and at this point, it's very early on. And I remember reading it about it, just doing some research. I think Italy hadn't even closed the borders yet, or Europe hadn't even closed its borders, so it was pretty early on. Yeah, and I just heard it from him, and then I just did my own research, but really didn't do anything about it because nobody was doing anything about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So this is probably like end of January of 2020.
Okay, when it first started like hitting different
Yes,
world.
when we started just reading and listening.
Okay. And what was your
doing
initial reaction?
Pretty careless, actually. I was like, it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
things happen. And your uncle was the one that is like, again, my husband was the one that is like, no, I think we need to get ready. I think we need to bunker down. um, buy food. Um, I mean, I know we bought food and we like get ready, but we didn't go crazy. I
Mm.
mean, there was a point where, yeah, no, it was just, but yeah, by myself, it was like pretty careless.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's how I feel like that's how we all were at the beginning. Like,
I
eh,
was like, it'll go away.
yeah. So at what point, and how did you realize that this was serious, or do you think it's serious today?
Yes, no, I think it's super serious. I think the week before, um, we actually went into lockdown the first time. Uh, we like the stores were empty, and it was just this sense of like things are not okay. Like people close to us were already getting sick, so it was really weird, like hearing about it, and then it just like really quickly it got very close to us. And that's when we were like, okay, we're doing this. So yeah, I think like maybe looking at school, my kids didn't go to school even they hadn't even closed the schools and they weren't going to school anymore.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So you
So
pulled
we
them out
just
before they shut it down?
yeah, we pulled them out before.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about some daily impacts. Like, how has COVID-19 impacted you personally?
So the first 4 months, I couldn't work. I didn't have any work. Everybody obviously was in lockdown in their house, and I guess I was the same. They didn't want anybody in their homes, which is completely understandable. So it was it was quite the shock because I hadn't even turned like 1 year of having the business, and it was I had just quite hit my best month, um, and and it just like all went into crumbles, and like you grow, but you work so hard to grow a business, literally, you know, super hard work, and then it just like it was like March 16th, it was over. Like it was over. Um, but that was also that point where like I started figuring other things out, that I wanted, just like life on its own, I needed it to slow down,
Mhm.
So at the beginning it was really hard. I felt uh, my husband could keep working. He was essentially an essential worker, and I couldn't, and it was just like this battle between my feelings of like, but he gets to go out and I get to stay home with the kids, and I get to like stop my business, but he can still grow his. A lot of ego in there, and a lot of fear too, because I couldn't see my mom and I couldn't see my brothers either. And I think because, no, I don't think, I know that because I'm an immigrant and my mom had to leave me for so long. In Mexico, I have like super high anxiety when it comes about separation
Mhm.
from my mom and my brothers. So the beginning was really hard until we decided that like, okay, we're gonna be our own, we're gonna create our own COVID bubble. And if I'm taking care of myself and you're taking care of yourself, then we can, be together.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that wasn't until, you know, I think almost the second month that we started doing that. So day to day was really hard, but at the same time, I think by the second month also, we didn't even know what day it was. And that kind of felt like a bliss.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Those first couple months was like new. I was like, you don't want to
Yes.
see people? I was so
Yep.
confused. Um, so what about your kids, Luca and Azul? How did they get impacted?
I mean, obviously, we pulled him out of school before saying goodbye to anybody because he was so sudden. Um, Sorry, there was like something in my feet. So they didn't get to say goodbye to their friends or teachers. Um, I think that I always thought that my kids were like that they love going to events and they love being around people. And then I have found out that my kids are like homebodies. They love being home. They love creating at home. They love reading at home. Like I guess they're a lot more, introverts than I thought they were. But I've seen them thrive during the pandemic, actually. I don't know if it's because I decided to homeschool them or mostly because they just like to live like a slow life. Um, it was hard at the beginning, not being able to see friends. So it's kind of been a little bit like both. There's been obviously tears because of little friends, but they were also part of the decision that we made together about homeschooling them. They were part of the decision because it's also their education. So we all agreed that maybe it was time to try it out because we always talked about it. And they're also part of the decision of going back into public schools, and they decided to go. But at the beginning, they were just kind of like riding the wave with us and like, okay, this is kind of cool. You're home. We're just doing fun stuff. Um, and then, birthdays or little things that they used to do with their friends that they didn't get to do, those will be very hard and become, um, you know, of them crying. They will cry a lot, but they also were like, I'm just really lucky that I'm okay and that we're okay and that we're not sick. So they bounced back really, really fast. But I think that if anybody has thrived in the pandemic, I always say it's my kids.
Yeah, that's good. Um, so what about your family members? Like, how did COVID impact them? Maybe people who live inside the United States, outside the United States.
So my mom lost her job right away when they shut down the restaurants, and then like everything kind of started crumbling from there because like we're my mom's biggest support, right? So then my mom had no work. Um, my brothers didn't have work either because they're also are in the restaurant industry. So and Angel in California lost his job. Um, and we were all kind of just helping out, like, okay, cool. Like, if you send my mom money for a cell phone bill, I'll send you money for rent when it's time. And we're just kind of like passing the ball. Family in Mexico were just highly scared, like super scared, because both my grandma and my grandpa are obviously, not young, and my grandma's pretty healthy. My grandpa's not so much. Um, but it even took even longer for them to go into quarantine. So that was another thing. And other than that, they were really afraid. Um, and I do know that I talked to my grandma like a month ago, and my grandma was just saying that a lot of people were getting sick again because a lot of people from the United States started traveling back to go see their family. And that was really frustrating for me because I'm still in touch with a lot of people that I know, from social media that were down there, and that made it so frustrating for me that I know that they were in parties and they were hosting events, and then they go to this little town that my grandparents live, that is like a super small town where almost everybody feels like everybody's old there now.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating to see that, like, that our grandparents, our people, our older, in our little town were like getting sick and some of them dying,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
And like suffering the consequences of other people's actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. What about like the organizations that you're a part of? Like how did this impact you?
So, I mean, I think it's just like one of those things that the Latino Arts Initiative stopped because we couldn't do a music festival.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we did, right? We did a t-shirt contest. The t-shirt contest was a project for that youth. We couldn't do a t-shirt contest because we didn't have a concert to celebrate, and to have so didn't do anything for that. That one shut down right away. Good Vibes Movement. Um, we had just become a nonprofit, and then lockdown happened, and trying to do things, trying to do, a board and not actually being together just in Zoom wasn't working for us. So it's been really hard, but Good Vibes Movement is going great. The board is going great. But yeah, it's always a struggle to me because if I'm not around these people that I'm supposed to be like organizing with, to me it's like I sometimes forget to like log in the meetings, and then I'm just like reading everything later on. So yeah, I mean the Latinos Initiative, it's just not doing anything. There's really nothing to do, and at the same time, it's kind of insane to even try to do anything right now.
Yeah, slowly things will open up eventually. Hopefully we can start
Yeah,
the organizations back up.
yeah. I mean, Good Vibes Movement is a space for the community. Um, they host yoga classes, and it's by donation only. It's like a donation only space, the only one of its kind. So they couldn't even do yoga, right? Because it couldn't be in person. So then they started using the space to feed the community. So like they would just get a bunch of people to donate food, and they would just donate our community. It felt like it was almost every day at some point. It was just a weekend. So things like that. It's like a community-based space, of course, like this is when it's most needed.
Yeah, exactly. That's great though that the organizations did that.
Oh yeah, they're still doing it.
That's awesome. Um, so how is it going out in the world? So how's it going out in the world during COVID before pre-COVID?
What do you mean? Like how was it going?
Yeah, like what's the difference between COVID
Oh
and
God.
pre-COVID? Do you remember?
You remember? I don't even remember. Um, I am a huge lover of the earth, and I super into climate change, and I've always said that earth needed a reset. So I'd always felt like that was what COVID did at the beginning, and that life, but I think I used to like my life before COVID, but now I think I didn't like my life because I do like the. It's just really hard because I always talk to this with my husband. It's like I found a lot of things about myself that I never really had time for before, and but at the same time, I know so many people that died, and obviously you listen to the numbers and you see how tragic it's been for so many people. Um, and it's really hard to even say like, oh yeah, I kind of like this world better, because you're like, yeah, I can't say that because all of these people have died, and so I don't know. I'm still trying to like figure it out because at the same time, I do know that there was a lot of things about my life that not just my life in particular, but life overall, with the kids, with the world, with that it kind of needed, a little bit more attention. I mean, I would rather this COVID to not exist and maybe something else that we could have just like, give Mother Earth a reset and everybody else a time to slow down,
Yeah.
you know. But being captive is also not the fucking best for human beings, and we're obviously seeing the aftermath now. But yeah, but it's weird because I was watching something and nobody was wearing a mask that was at an event. It's like this UFC fight, and I was like, what is the world?
Yeah.
Like, why is nobody wearing that mask? Like, it felt pre-COVID, but no, it's now. So I don't know, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's like confusing.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, it's
Yeah,
bizarre.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, like you were talking about, so how, if at all, has COVID impacted your ability to gather with your family and friends for important events? You touched on that a little bit, but you have anything more to say on that?
Well, I mean, I was just with my mom and my brothers. I didn't see any friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like we weren't seeing any friends at all. At all. We still really don't. So I don't even remember. I think it was until this year that I started seeing like my three best friends, my three best girlfriends. Um, and it was like in an outside bar, very away from each other, you know. Like I know there was like a few of outdoor picnics that we had before winter hit, but then winter here in Des Moines hits, and then you have nowhere to go outside. You know, it's so cold that we were just home. So it has. I mean, other than obviously, I miss my friends. I miss feeding. That's the only thing that I miss. You know, is hugging my friends, kissing my friends, feeding my friends.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's been the hardest because our friendships are, you know, I mean, we do sim calls and all of those things, but it's just kind of like I just want to hug people. My two of my best friends had their babies, and I haven't really been able to be around. Like I just see them, you know,
Yes.
daily photos or videos or stuff, and I've always wanted to be there, you know, for those things, and I just got to see them through a screen.
Yeah. It's something you don't expect to change.
Yeah, not at
Still
all.
things that we like probably take for granted before. We're all just like, this the little things now.
Yep.
So, how is your how has your family changed on what you take with you when you leave your home, like now that COVID time? Like, what's your routine now that you leave your house before you go out?
Oh God. Well, after that 4 months, um, I went back to work. So I've been working for a good solid time. Got masks all the time, but I also have masks in the car because that's like the new normal, and I always have extra masks because I have the children. Um, at the beginning, when I went back to work, I was having like really high anxiety of like going outside
Yeah.
and going into people's homes. Um, I still get anxiety if I'm gonna go to a place that is not my clients anymore. Like if I'm gonna go to a restaurant, I would still get, but not as not as high as the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes have to talk to myself about this is a new normal. You know, like I mean restaurants never close here and Des Moines, but we weren't going out to eat. So like the first time was like, okay, we're doing this. I guess we're doing this. And I'll have to talk to myself about it. But you know, no, I guess it gets easier. I'm just trying to figure out a way of like what's the new normal.
Yeah.
So as long as I have, you know, a hand sanitizer with me at obviously all the time, um, and my mask, and really if we don't have to leave home, we still don't leave home.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait for it, maybe everyone to get here. Um,
I was like, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think it's just like it's not so much everybody getting vaccinated, of course, is highly important. It's just more like it's kind of like I don't know. You don't need to be at the store all the damn time and out all the time, I guess. It's okay to be that if that's one thing that we learn is the fact that we actually really love being home.
Yeah. And you make a
You
whole
know?
new like environment for yourself
Yeah.
now that you
Like
have to.
yeah, and yeah.
So, how do you feel about wearing masks?
Um I don't mind it. I never did. I never did since the beginning. It was never like oh my God, can't breathe. Like no, it was never. And then right away, like right away I was like, oh, I could wear it like this, and I could wear it with this, and I just right away, Azul and I we were just having a lot of fun making it fashionable and
Yeah.
making it a statement more than anything else. So yeah, it's never been a problem.
Yeah, gotta find the positive things in it. Okay, so let's move on to like education. Um, how has COVID-19 changed the way you or your children or your community receive education?
Well, like I said, we pulled them up before the school year ended, or they shut down the schools. The school year hadn't ended. Um, it, I mean, it was a shock. It was a shock, obviously, like everything happening, but it it like to us, to my husband and I, it kind of proved the point that we had that our school system is broken, and that they didn't have any idea what they were gonna do with the kids,
Like a plan.
and a plan. Virtual learning, it was just like, I am not sitting my kid in front of the computer. Like I can't do that. Like I know my kids, and I know my kids need constant talking to and constant like movement and conversating, and we weren't gonna do that computer, so it changed completely. Like, but then I also knew my insane privilege of like deciding to homeschool them, being able to homeschool them, because I live in a very, very low, very poor um, income neighborhood. And moms, my neighbor, like, all the neighbors, like, they go to work when their kids are at school.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was no schools, there was no summer programs either. A lot of kids around that neighborhood literally go to the summer camp so they can eat, they can have meals. So, but then I have amazing neighbors, and really like all the community. Like there was a lot of like right away, like in the corner of the church, there is gonna be lunch and there is gonna be food. Um, but education changed completely for us, and then we decided, homeschool the kids, and it was the best decision that we ever made. We were going in a climate of, political climate too, that I was super happy that I was teaching my kids what they should have been taught since the beginning, and that I was finally doing when all this craziness before, Biden won and it was happening. It felt like the biggest victory of all, to being able to homeschool my children during such a crazy time. And yeah, yeah,
It was a new
changed
opportunity for you
completely.
and the kids.
Oh yeah, it was 100%.
So while they were, when did you decide to homeschool them?
In the summer, right before we started like conversation, I think like in June, like middle of June, we were already, Amner and I were already like, okay. It was kind of more like his idea. He was like, okay, what about when COVID is over? Are we really gonna go back to the same? Like, then why did COVID happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, shouldn't we do things different? And he started putting it on my mind, and I've always wanted to homeschool, but I just could never get myself to do it. Um, and then we started talking to the kids like in July, and once they announced what was gonna be the back to school plan, and we read it to them, and they realized that there was no way they were gonna see their friends anyway, then they were game.
They're on board with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you answered a lot of my questions, so that way we don't have to go through those. So so how if at all have the schools helped your community during COVID? I know you talked about like your own community helping your.
I mean, I know there's like we have a neighborhood school like 2 blocks away,
Mhm.
and like all summer they serve food, for all the kids in the community, um, on Fridays they will give them food, enough food for Saturday and Sunday. Um, so I got to see like that real impact that Timon Public Schools did here in our neighborhood just with that program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard because I know that the teachers at the same time, they were also, I stay in touch with a lot of the teachers from that kids' old school.
Mhm.
Um, and they were struggling themselves. So like, and I have teachers that are friends, they really couldn't do anything, but it was just checking in on their kids and sending messages and all of those things that I think like made a difference for their children.
Yeah. The teachers, yeah, I can't imagine the teachers are, after so many years, just the world changes.
Yep, completely.
Yeah. So, how about your education? Has your education been disrupted as a result of COVID-19?
No, not mine.
Okay.
I'm all about with school.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to some healthcare questions. So what kind of concerns or questions about healthcare have emerged as a result of COVID for you and your family?
Oh God. Um, I don't know, that's a hard one. Um, our healthcare system sucks. It's so it's kind of like I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's so crazy to me that we were doing so many things before COVID that I was like, why would we ever did that? That's how people get sick. Um, so yeah, no, other than because I got COVID twice, and then it's kind of like, okay, so sometimes I feel like I don't even know what to believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that is just kind of like more than that. I don't even know what to believe it. I'm not against the vaccine, I'm not against of any like, and I don't. It's just it feels like they that they don't even know what's going on
Yeah.
at some points for me, I guess. But yeah,
Definitely.
I don't know.
So is it changing the way you're doing or getting healthcare personally?
Um, it's okay. This one's hard because I know that if I take care of myself, then I probably wouldn't. I'm not a huge like, ooh, I have a cold. I'm gonna go to the doctor. Or this hurts. Like, I am not a person that goes to the doctor.
Yeah.
So I still right now, like, I don't think I'll go because I have to go, you know, for certain things. But no, not even COVID. No.
Got it. So what about access to healthcare? Has that changed at all for your family?
In the last year, it has because through my husband's work, we finally got insurance after being without insurance for, oh my God, I want to say like a little over a year when we started being self-employed.
Mm.
Um, so we got it. I feel like we got it. We got insurance through like the middle of the pandemic.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about the vaccine. How do you feel about the vaccine? Are you having any problems registering? Are you planning to get the vaccine?
I am planning to get the vaccine. Yeah, yeah. No, no problems at all with it. Like, mm, is I mean, I vaccinated the kids, to get them into school. I really early on, vaccinated them since they were babies. So why wouldn't I not vaccinate myself to like protect everybody?
Yeah.
Um, it's like mostly that. It's not so much about me. It's like so much about like Mama Ocha. Like I really wanna be able to go and hug her again and be in the same space. Um, and friends. I want to see my friends and I want to hug my friends. So if that says that I have to get a vaccine, then I'll get a vaccine. Why not?
Yeah. Um, so let's get to the politics part of COVID. How do you believe politics affected how COVID has been handled?
God, I mean, it had everything to do with it. Um, just the fact that we had heard already about it and it was already in the news, but they weren't doing anything about it. They weren't even talking about it.
Hmm.
I think if the president at that time had done a better job since the very beginning, um, the outcome here in the United States would have been very different.
Yeah.
But it's too late.
Yeah. The damage has been done.
The damage has been done.
How's COVID affected politics in your area, like here in Iowa?
I mean, that's also hard because, so like the governor here never closed, right? I mean, there was never like a full shutdown in here. And I think the reason why a lot of the cases that, a lot of people that got sick, it was because of that. Like, I felt like I live in a world that 90% of the world was like living in another world, and I was living with the other 10% that did believe that COVID existed. Because everybody was just going with their life because their governor was telling us telling them that it was okay, could go outside. Like, I mean, masks weren't even mandatory here for the longest time, and right now are not even mandatory anymore.
Yeah, it's like,
So yeah, I see it firsthand. How much, how much both, how much hate has been created from like a governor not shutting down and everything, and then putting people against each other because, like, yeah, I don't believe in this. Oh, you believe in this, and then we were in a political climate already. Like, the elections were about to happen. You know, George Floyd happened. Like, it was just a series of events that made this like so much harder
yeah,
than
a chain
it should
reaction.
have ever been. Hmm.
So it was a rough to the year for everybody.
It's quite a year.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about your work. First, just for clarification to our viewers, what is it that you do?
I own my own eco-friendly cleaning business.
Okay. And how did COVID impact your work?
Um, it was, I mean, at the beginning, it was painful. Like, it was just 4 months of not getting an income, at all whatsoever, because there was no clients. And it was just really hard, like, because I knew how hard I had worked for an entire year, to like, felt like I was gonna lose everything. Um, there for a while. And then once I got back to work, old clients wanted me back right away. So I went back to work really fast. And within the first 3 months of going back, I already had the double of clients. So it was ended up being my best year, and it was only half of the year. Um, and but everything changed when it comes about like the way that I was cleaning and what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I had to change pretty much, half of the products, and that whole thing is supposed to be eco-friendly, but you can't because you have to disinfect people's houses. So it was like I couldn't really stay true to what I was doing, um, because I had to really like not only take care of my clients' homes and their families, but I also had to take care of my family going home. Um, so yeah, I mean,
You do
I
it.
had to change things a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to change things a bit to figure out the new normal. Um, and now we're back. I mean, probably like a 75, 80% is now eco-friendly, and only like about 20, 25% still not what I would desire to be, but we'll get there.
Okay. So wait, this is a sensitive question that we have, but of course you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you have any new worries regarding your or any of your family members' documentation status?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. It just feels like we're always in limbo, you know? When people are talking about it, is more obviously before a president gets elected. And now, like, it's kind of like dead, right? Because new president is already on board, and now he doesn't have to keep promising things. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I've always feel like not just myself, but Angel and Diego, my brothers that are under DACA, can lose it at any time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always I'm sure it doesn't stop when COVID starts. I'm sure it doesn't stop when COVID ends. The world.
Yeah, people were still getting deported, so COVID did not stop that.
Well,
It's never stopped.
so, do you have any concerns about finances?
I'm very lucky that I don't. No, um, both my husband's and my business just did amazing last year, and we continue to do so. So I find myself for the first time in a really, really good place financially.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, thanks.
Um, so how, if at all, have the current social movements in conjunction with COVID-19 impacted your daily life, like your perception of going out, and everything?
But like I said, I'm still having sometimes little anxiety of leaving, but more than anything, I just want to go back to whatever the new normal is. So I'm just really like husband and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and this was about a whole different situation, but I'm just trying to do day by day, just one day at a time. Like my husband says all the time, you know, how yesterday was yesterday and you cannot get it back, you know. So I'm trying to kind of live by his words and just go one day at a time.
That's a good way to live, I think. Um, so have you participated in any protests recently, and has COVID impacted your decision to participate?
No, actually, it wasn't so much COVID. I haven't in the last year. Um, it was my fear of getting arrested. Before I used to protest or do any walkouts or anything, I wasn't afraid, but people were not getting arrested. And once George Floyd got killed and BLM BLM started doing all the movement down here, everybody was getting arrested left and right. Also really close people, and I just went into shock right away, and I just couldn't. So it's just I could lose everything. I could lose everything. So then I just started figuring out how to do other things, and then I just started like donating to mutual aid and um, you know, donating to the Bell Fund and donating to everything. Lucas Azul and I will do like different raffles, and I will raffle cleanings, and I will sell things from my closet, and kind of figured out that our way to help was by helping them keep that movement going with money.
Yeah, of course. There's different ways to help our causes that we believe in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're down to like the last question. So, is there anything else you would like to share with me or our viewers about your experience with COVID-19 that I have not asked about? Like your
Can you say that again, honey? Sorry.
Yeah, no. Is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experience with COVID-19 that I haven't not asked you about?
No, I think you covered it all.
Awesome. Okay, so I just want to thank you again for being a part of this project. I think it's
Thank
really
you.
important that we document as many stories as we can because we are currently living in history right now. And thank you again for participating in this interview.
Thank you, babe.
Um, so that's it for today. I'm gonna start recording.
Okay.
Thank you.